Wow. The Cohen hearing, the public version, is over now. Wow. Oh, man. Oh, any Mormon, any Republican who still wants to be in denial, I'm going to pull a page from your book. Get out of our country. You don't want to be here. You want a different world. So just leave. It's that basic. It's that simple. Your tactics of authoritarianism, they don't belong here. This is America, where the Constitution belongs. Oh, man. Cohen comes right off the bat, throwing out evidence that takes down even Junior. Oh, man. He implicates Trump's lawyers, Ivanka. Oh, Trump is going to be pissed. You don't touch his daughter girlfriend. Oh, man. And so this is bad news for Trump. But now it's a crossroads for everybody. Everybody must now choose. You can't avoid it. You can't be silent. As the chairman was quoting from Martin Luther King, both in his opening statement and his closing. Nobody can be silent on this. Mormons, you cannot be silent on this. You can't just say, no, I don't know, I don't deal with politics. I don't care. No, you have to choose. Do you want a king on the throne of America, or do you want to follow the Book of Mormon? Do you want to follow the Constitution? That simple. And so, yeah, there's comparisons here with Trump and his organization and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Not just because they're both dealing with Russia, Trump trying to get a Trump Tower in Russia, and the church trying to get a temple in Russia. Isn't that interesting, the coincidence? But lots of stuff that are going on. Let's see, which one is it? This one. All these notes. Oh, this is the standards and stuff. That's the wrong one. Oh, man. Okay. But unbelievable. The Republicans tried to distract, which is obstruction of justice, obstruction of Congress. They didn't want to deal with Cohen exposing the president. They were covering for the president. Just as Cohen put them on the spot and said, Republicans, you are doing exactly what I did. You are giving blind loyalty to a guy who isn't worth it. And so, Mormons, what are you doing? Trusting the church over the gospel of Jesus. You're giving blind loyalty to the church. And it's the same thing. Did you catch the encoding that Cohen was saying Trump uses when he talks? He just opened up all his tweets, because now people can go back and look at Trump's tweets and say, oh my God, he did do this. This is what he meant here. Oh, this is what he meant here. And now everybody will be going back to it, just like they're doing with his campaign rallies. But yeah, now we can go to his tweets now and encode them, or decode them. This is the method that the church uses. I told you guys, the Book of Mormon, is encoded speech. This is what I was talking about. Not that the Book of Mormon is doing bad things. No, the Book of Mormon was warning us of this very day and time, this in history. That was the threat to America, and we just witnessed it. Trump blew everything apart. The whole secret operation. The whole plot to destroy America. And they use coded speech. Because like he said of Trump, Trump doesn't give you a direct order. He doesn't tell you what to do. He lies to you about what he wants you to believe in. That's exactly what the prophets do at the pulpit of conference. They continually lie about what they want you to believe. And so, as a result, what happens? You get BYU. They have their code of conduct. Apparently that the news story that I reported on this morning illustrates the point perfectly. According to the code of conduct, you can't have a boy in your room, women. And so how do they stop gay people? But interestingly, Mitt Romney has a solution to that. He has, when you try to comment to him, he demands you designate a prefix for your sexuality. Mr., Mrs., Ms. You have to state your sexuality to Mitt Romney. I was pissed when I went through, filled out all of the stuff, went through my whole comment, and then it says, you have to fill this out too. What? Nobody asked me to fill that out. That's always optional. But no, he makes it required. And so, no big deal, Mr. But the fact that he was even asking, that was disturbing to me. Because he's a politician. He's supposed to represent everyone. He's not supposed to have biases. And so I just hope he votes. I'm thinking it's supposed to be today, the Senate vote to stop the national emergency. I think that's supposed to be today. Because the House voted yesterday, and so it's supposed to be passed to the Senate today. But I don't know, maybe they'll delay it. Like Republicans tried to delay Cohen's testimony today after Cohen delayed it because Trump threatened him and his family. But that's exactly what the church does at the pulpit. And so BYU, with their code of conduct, no men in women's bedrooms. And women are afraid to report rape. You know, the story of it was I can't remember how long ago it was, but a woman was now suing BYU, or complaining against BYU. I guess it's suing. She was saying that she held off reporting it for 4 days out of fear of what BYU would do to her, because she knew. And even though 2017 they supposedly made changes, no, church does not make changes. They appear to make changes to get everybody silent, to have everybody stop bugging them about the issue. That's why the church is doing changes here and there. It's to silence people. Silence the ordained women. Silence the NAACP. Silence the Protect LDS Children. Silence the LGBT. You know, they just want criticism and conflicts to just leave them alone. Rather than doing the right thing, they want people silenced. And that's the way it is with Trump. Cohen laid it all out. And so I'm straying on tangents, so I hope I cover everything here. But BYU, their code of conduct. No men in women's bedrooms. Where's the sin in that? What's the sin? There is no sin. However, once you make it a code of conduct, and they even have in the code of conduct, you need to report on other people who violate the code of conduct. That's part of the code of conduct. So if you don't report other people and they find out you didn't report, then you get busted for violating the code of conduct. You're forced to report on other people. And so that causes some problems. And with the coding, let's go back to the coding now. But again, no, I got to cover the sin issue. It's not a sin for a man to be in a woman's bedroom. It's not a sin. It may be improper according to people's opinions and feelings, but it's not a sin. You know, let's go to Jesus. Yes, let's go to Jesus. What was he getting constantly ridiculed, chastised, demeaned, and attacked by the Pharisees for? The Pharisees' code of conduct, the standards of the Jewish church, the For Strength of the Jews pamphlet, shall we say. Are you catching the connections, Mormons? Jesus was constantly violating the hedge laws of the Pharisees, because the law of love took precedence. When you elevate standards, when you elevate traditions, when you elevate honor code above the law, you're violating the law. You're not protecting people from it. You are violating it. You are preventing people from the law so that they can live the law. And that's the enslavement of Mormonism. That's the blaming the victimizing. Blaming the victimizing. I guess I can't put blaming the victim because it would just be victimizing. And so when a woman gets raped, to have BYU, the religious entity, because it's owned and operated by the church. That's part of the church's funding, is through educational universities. To have them punish you after you just got victimized, that your life has just been flipped upside down, and now the church has come after you. You get double attacked. Now, yes, the honor code is supposed to protect you from getting raped. But the one particular woman in question, there was no indication of whether she allowed the guy in or whether he invited himself in. And since she got raped, that's what she's accusing. It seems like he invited himself in, so that she didn't violate the honor code. He violated the honor code, but he was not a student at BYU. So he was a trespasser. See how easily this could have been resolved by BYU if they set aside the honor code to look at the big picture of love? And so with the BYU cops, they're now busted. You know, they're given a little lenience because they have till September to you know, resolve the concerns before it becomes official. So, okay, so now coding. The Book of Mormon is encoded. I've tried to tell you guys this. It's not a true book. Critics know this. People who actually do study of it, linguistic studies, know this. Mormons, they don't study it. They don't actually do the research on it to find out. And so Mormons refuse. They remain silent on it and shut out the critics because they don't want to hear anything that opposes their beliefs and their feelings. And as a result, even critics miss out because Mormons don't know the truth either. And I've already told you what the encoding message is. It's a warning to America to not put a king on the presidency. And oops, everybody didn't recognize the encoding, and the Gadianton robber encoded words. They put the king on the throne. They've been trying it all this time, chopping away at the Constitution, piece by piece, until finally it required Russia to put a king on the throne for us, but because we've destroyed the Constitution, we can't get rid of him now. But interesting, Cohen said that if Trump loses the election, because in the midterms it was reported that our military shut down the computers of the Russians on that day of the voting. And as a result, what happens? Sweeping of the House with the Democrat Party. You know, what would have happened if we didn't stop Russia? What would Russia have done differently with the midterms? Probably similar to what they did in 2016 to get Trump in. And so if we don't stop them for the presidential election, what's going to happen? Trump will remain because the votes will be altered. But if we do stop Russia on the day of our election and Trump loses, Cohen says he fears what Trump will do to prevent what he worries about not having a peaceful transition. Because Trump knows once he's no longer president, he's no longer protected as he thinks he is now, because everybody's saying we don't know what to do. Oh, do we get rid of him or not? How do we interpret the Constitution as we've already destroyed it? Do you see what they've done, Mormons? If you had read your Book of Mormon, you would have seen exactly what the Gadianton robbers did. They altered the laws of the Constitution and then had a hypocritical punishment. Those of their group, they had their own punishment for. And those of the people, they had a different set of rules for them. And so how then are the leaders of the church using encoded messaging like Donald Trump? So like I said, Trump just says, hey, this is a witch hunt, over and over and over and over. This is a hoax. They're illegals. They're animals. They're rapists. He just throws these accusations out. Nobody calls him on it. Why do you think people commit suicide from bullying? Because eventually the people wear down and they let it get to them. And they can't see any way out. They believe the accusations. And they take their life. And nobody's really going after the bullies, are they? The bullies have committed murder. It wasn't a suicide. It never is a suicide. There's always somebody causing it. During the financial crisis in the early 1900s, the Great Depression, with the stock market crash, you know, that people were jumping out of skyscrapers to kill themselves. It wasn't a suicide. It was a financial crisis. The financial crisis caused it, because our government did not regulate the economy as they should have. And so how does the church do it? Well, you've already seen it. When Nelson talked to the youth in the fireside last year, he formed the LDS, or the Mormon Youth Battalion, or the LDS Youth Battalion. I think he just said Youth Battalion. He militarized the youth using military terms. PC-Matic now has a commercial out for their antivirus software, I guess, and they're now using the militant terms, cyber warfare, and patriot, and threat, and they're using all those code words, hoping that we as Americans will buy into it and buy their program, buy their deal. And PC-Matic is actually kind of tempting, because it's 5 computers for $50. AVG wants $100 for each computer. Although they allow you a basic package that's free, but it doesn't do anything other than regular stuff. But I'm still, people can get in, and AVG has had their problems. But that's another question as to why am I being targeted. So, it's protection money is what it is. But that's what the church is doing. So let's go over the church's coding. They keep saying that they are the true church of Jesus Christ, that they are the legitimate line of succession from Joseph Smith. And we don't get taught about Sidney Rigdon speaking up in public, in the public setting that was arranged after Joseph Smith died, where he and Brigham Young debated who was to lead. And then nobody talks about the Strangites or Strangeites, I don't know the exact pronunciation, or David Whitmer and his church that was named similar to Sidney Rigdon, as I went over in my polygamy series videos, or Emma Smith, and those that were loyal to Joseph Smith to keep it in the family. And so as a result, when I was born and raised in the church, I always thought, oh, this is the church that Joseph Smith started. No, it's not. It's the church that Brigham Young changed it into. And then successive prophets changed it a little bit from what Brigham Young had. And more changes were added along the way from what Brigham Young did. And as Mormons, we are taught, oh, well, the church is getting continual revelation. It's a stepping stone process. No, there's a difference between learning line upon line versus correcting errors. See, when you're learning line upon line, you may make errors, but the errors are based upon your level that you're at. Whereas if you start off corrupt, and it's not a matter of growing by making change. And unfortunately, the organizations that are criticizing the church are in that line of thinking, that they say that the church needs to change in order to be less corrupt. And thus the church is resisting that, because they don't want to see themselves as corrupt, because if they admit they're corrupt, then the whole thing falls to ruins, and nobody has a church at all, because that's the mentality, isn't it? If nobody can play nice, then nobody's playing at all. And so yeah, succession is a big thing in the church. And Nelson, when he got up, did you guys pay attention to what he said? He's giving coded messaging, whether you understand it or not. He said that he was the legitimate successor of Brigham Young. Not Joseph Smith, Brigham Young. And as I went over in the polygamy video, only Brigham Young performed polygamy, started it up. It was him, 1853. That's when he started it. And then everybody understood what Brigham Young was doing. That's the Trump tactic. Brigham Young was doing it. Brigham Young said, polygamy is the law of God. Polygamy, polygamy, polygamy. And all of his loyalists defended him and added their testimony that polygamy was true. And so then you get other things popping up. Oh yeah, Jesus and Heavenly Father and Adam, and even though Adam and Heavenly Father were the same back then under Brigham Young. And so then you have to say, okay, well, if it came from Joseph, we sort of need evidence, don't we? I mean, well, we can say it was done in secret, but that only goes for so long. It helps to have corroborating evidence. So after 1853, people started writing in their journals. Oh, I remember when Joseph Smith came to me in my bedchambers and we had mad, passionate love. Yeah, decades later. Or an angel, Joseph Smith told me that an angel appeared to him with a sword in his hand and said, if you don't start polygamy immediately, I will smite you down immediately. And so it was practiced in secret rather than openly practiced. And it was only practiced by a few, not the whole church, because it was in secret, so thus Mormons didn't know about it. And then we're supposed to just believe that that was the case and that was good enough for the angel not to smite him down? Go to my videos. We go over it all. And so what else does the church do? They do NDAs, don't they? You have a church court, you have to sign a document waiving your rights to talk about it to others. You can't tell what goes on there. It's sacred. That's the code word. Sacred. It's not secret, it's sacred. That's the code. That's how you interpret it. Sacred means secret. Keeping secrets. Not disclosing anything that goes on. Covering up. That's one of the code words right there. I just revealed it. See, sacred in and of itself is a good word. It's a religious word because it means holy. But when evil people take it, it's like he has nothing to do in his day but to keep driving by my window. I hear him all the time. But wicked people, that's how they get away with it in society. They use secret code words so that only those who are in on it, who are in the organization, know of it. Other people don't. So thus, everybody's complained here in Utah about when you go to apply for a job at a Utah or Mormon-owned business or a Mormon member-owned business, because the Mormon member will speak with you in coded messaging to identify you as a member of the church also. And so members get biased privileges of getting the job over a non-Mormon in Mormon-run businesses. And I guess sort of in a way the non-Mormon businesses do it too. But they're a little more blunt, because they say, will you work Sundays? So they're going right to the jugular. Are you a Mormon who believes that you can't work on Sundays? Is what they're saying. They can't say, are you Mormon? Because you can't ask about a person's religion in order for it to get in the job. And then of course they look for garment marks. This is an undershirt. I finally replaced the others. They were riding up my belly. But these love to stick out. So I have to get used to that after all these decades of wearing garments that I've had to keep hidden. Remember, they're sacred, so they got to be kept hidden. And so technically, I don't need to wear this blue shirt. I can wear the white one. It's just a shirt. But, you know, people get paranoid when they talk about sacredness, keeping it secret from the world. We can't let them see the square and the compass of the Freemasons on our breasts. That's what it is, Mormons. Codes. And the racism, the sexism, the neglect of the poor. They're not supposed to do that. They're a church, remember? But they have ways of secret codes to tell the members to discriminate against blacks. And so the church had to, back in, what was it, 71, I believe it was, that I saw the video about the Genesis group. And the church was the ones presenting it. And they said, oh, we organized the Genesis group for the blacks. Oh. Remember, 71 was before 78, which means they had no priesthood leadership. They had to send priesthood leadership in the beginning. And yet we're supposed to believe, oh, the church is doing all they can to help black people. No. Just like I can't pronounce her name without actually seeing it in front of me, and I'm not sure if I could pronounce it even if I saw it in front of me, because even in the Spanish language and French language, if you don't know in French, for example, that there are silent letters, you know, les miserables, no, it's les miserables because of the consonant in the M. And so the S is silent because if you don't know that, you don't know how to pronounce things. And so, yeah, I don't know if I can pronounce the lady's name in the Congresswoman, but she didn't say the name of the congressman who was legitimately doing a racist tactic in the courtroom to try to demonstrate that Trump is not a racist by using a token black woman that Trump has hired. And then Cohen responded with, yeah, how many are in executive positions? None. So how many prophets are black? How many prophets have ever been black? Exactly. So don't get fooled with a Genesis group, a token black group. See, why weren't they welcome in the regular wards? Do you know that the percentage of blacks is very minimal in Utah. Minorities, all added up together, I think it's maybe 20%. Utah is a white supremacist state, controlled by the Mormon Church. And so, as a result, women, blacks, and the poor are suppressed, oppressed, discriminated against, repressed, manipulated, threatened, all by these coded messaging. Because the church, are they a nonprofit or are they a charity? The church technically is a profit-making, non-profit-making, and educational organization. They have all three of those. And so the non-profit is supposed to be the charity part, but they don't call themselves a charity. It's listed as a religion, as a non-profit. And so they don't have to act like a charity is supposed to. Because a charity, according to the rules of charities, they can only spend about 10% for administrative financial expenses. They have to be spending around 90% to charity, whatever program they've got going. So the church ain't even doing that. They're nowhere near that. It's not even the reverse. It's far less than 10% given to the poor. And so what about a nonprofit then? Well, it's 65-35 for a nonprofit. And the church is not doing that either. They're nowhere near 65 as they should be, let alone 35, which would be the reverse, because they're not even getting 10%, the less, 0.1%. And that's only because we don't know their official finance records. They're keeping it a secret. Oh, it's sacred. And so, yeah, the church is a financial fraud. And it's a financial scam is what it is. It's a fake religion. They're claiming to be a religion, but they're not following the rules and guidelines for a religious nonprofit, let alone charity. You know, they're a nonprofit, but they have claims of being charitable. Temple welfare squares, sorry, and the bishop storehouses. Those are charitable stuff. But they don't call themselves a charity because they have to pay more in charity. And so they call it a non-profit, but then they don't pay enough to charity work. But they don't have to because it's a non-profit, not a charity. And so they can get away with it and say, oh, well, we're building temples. The money's going towards temples. That's where the 65% comes in. Yeah, but who pays for the temples? And so, and yeah, who profits from the temples? The church profits from the temples. It's a land ownership thing. And a temple escalates the price of the properties, especially the properties around the temple. So again, there's favoritism going on there. And yes, there's a temple that was built when President Irene now was involved in searching for temple locations. He got one just down the block from him, the Bountiful Temple. And then yeah, and so yeah, Sabbath day. Keep the Sabbath day holy, they say. That's coded. Family home in the evening. Family first. Coded. Because I've seen Mormons comment on my channel. He was like white supremacist knight of, I can't remember his name anymore. I'd have to go through my email archives. But yeah, he was all saying his racist rants and then claiming that it's not racism, it's just putting family first. Sound familiar with Trump? Yeah, exactly. America first. Get all these impure people out of here. The church has been cleansing itself. And that's what they've been doing. They've been cleansing, which again is code words, purifying the church, code words. Because Mormons will think, oh yeah, we want to create a holy people for the Lord. No, that's not what it means. That's not what the church leaders mean when they say we're cleansing the church, we're purifying the church. We're getting rid of the impure people. That's not what they mean, Mormons. You've been tricked. That's coded messaging that they're using on you. Only those that understand get it. And so Bishop Reed Hammond, he tried to use the coded messaging on me when he made his threat. I don't want you publishing that the Book of Mormon is the official doctrine of the church regarding the fall of Adam. Don't bother coming to church. And then in an email, it hurts me that you would accuse me. He tried to deny it. But in his denial, he exposed more things. That's why I want people to get it in print. That's why I want them to email me, not corner me in a church where nobody else is around to record it and be a witness. That's why bishops cannot be alone with people, especially children. So, I mean, do you Mormons get it? If you don't know the coding already and you're saying, yeah, well, shush, Travis, don't tell them. This is our little secret. No one needs to know. Because, yeah, the ones who are upset with me, the ones who argue with me on my channel, the ones who are commenting hate, the ones who are putting the thumbs down, they're the Mormons who are blind followers, just like Cohen, just like the Republican Party. That the church is more important than Jesus. And I guess it does matter if it's because they know what they're doing versus they don't know what they're doing and they've just been mind manipulated, brainwashed. So, yeah, I mean, you see it in culture. When you go out in the community, you talk to people, and that's the dark secret in Utah. Because when people come to visit, they'll all say, oh, they were so nice and friendly. They're awesome people. I would love to come back next year for the snow and go skiing again. You haven't lived here. Because this is what I've noticed. That at first, yeah, hey, welcome to the ward. Welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome to Utah. But then you have to follow Utah standards, Utah traditions, Utah honor code, Utah edge laws. Because you came from the outside, you don't know any of it. Even if you're Mormon on the outside, you don't know Utah's version. You don't know the secret encoding that is permeated through society here. And once you don't comply, which every outsider doesn't, although some do once they get threatened, because people get silenced, and people get threatened, and people comply. Oh, please don't be mean. don't hurt me. I'll do whatever you say. Then you become slaves to the system. But those of us who refuse and stand up for right and truth, we get attacked, don't we, Mormons? Who are former Mormons in many cases, or ex-Mormons. Those of us who are called apostates, antichrists, going against the church. See, that's part of the coding. If you say something that is not according with their secret coding of doctrine, you're going against the church. You may be correct in your doctrine of Jesus, but if it's not correct with the church, you're going against the church. All part of the coding. And so, yeah, I mean, how do they trap you? Because when we read about King Noah and Mosiah, he's referring back to King Noah also. He had his people committing wickedness so that he had leverage over them. And thus, it had a separate law for those who were followers of wickedness versus those who wanted the Constitution or the original law to be practiced. And so Abinadi was arrested for going against the king. Even though he was saying, you're doing bad things, the Lamanites are going to come and destroy us. You're going against the king, going against the church. So he was imprisoned and had a selected trial by those who questioned him. And it wasn't about what he was saying. No, it was about other things. They were trying to trick him and catch him in a lie so that they can find fault with him, as the Republicans tried to attempt to do today. Irrelevant subjects that won't lead to anything, but they thought that they could get them and show their base. Trump will stand strong as king. Book of Mormon is encoding. King Noah is encoding, warning us of what's going to happen if we put a president on the throne. And we just witnessed that coded message in the Book of Mormon in that hearing today. So, I know Mormons know it. They can't be naive that they have a certain lingo. I mean, I see YouTube videos about Mormon lingo. What Mormons mean when they say this or that. You know, missionary speak. That's encoded messaging. It's not because you're a different religion. But yeah, all religions have their own encoding. All organizations have their own encoding. All businesses have their own encoding. You know, that's why every field has its own lingo. And they purposely do that to secure their jobs. Because if they revealed what it actually means, what those words actually mean that are foreign to those of us who are not in the job, we go, oh, okay, that's what you mean. I could do that. You know, it's similar to a doctor. They have to memorize the actual names of each bone, each muscle. And if it was just a matter of a person who actually knew because they had seen the inside of a leg, and he'd say, oh yeah, that big bone right there in the upper leg. You don't need to have the name memorized, but they require it as the secret coding for the field of doctors in this case. And lawyers have their own encoding. Have you ever tried to do your own lawsuit? It's very complicated because you got to use the court's manner of speech. You can't just come as a regular citizen and say, hey, the Constitution says this was denied me. I want to sue this person because they violated my rights. No, you can't do that. Utah has their own codes that violate the Constitution. And you have to use the court speech in the presentation of your argument. And then they have payments, just like the church has payments. You have to pay for loyalty. And if you are faithful loyalists in your payments, then they give you the privilege of going through the temple. And so that's a fraud scam, a financial fraud scam, because they're telling you that being a member of the church and going through the temple is what will guarantee you a seat in the celestial kingdom. But in order to do that ritual process, you have to pay. And people are fooled in the church. They believe, oh, it doesn't matter if I pay. Yes, it does. It's a scam. Because they don't really believe you're going to be saved. Because they don't have legitimate authority, remember? And even then, when you get into the temple, they now even say you need to keep it a secret. It's sacred. That coded wording. So when I went through back in '89, which was before the changes, I was freaked out when they told me that I had to commit suicide if I went against the church. They had their own special oath, sign and token that you had to perform as part of it. This is the knife. Over on the left side where you need to cut the jugular. They didn't say that that's what you had to do to kill yourself. But that's what you were representing. You were doing that motion of slicing your throat. And you say, I'd rather take my life than violate this covenant of the priesthood. And so I was thinking, oh man, I shouldn't have had that bowl of cereal on Fast Sunday. When my sister came in and caught me and said, it's Fast Sunday, you're not supposed to have that bowl of cereal. She would also do it on regular weekdays when I was wanting something to eat in between meals. You can't have that. I want that. You can't. I want that. I'm telling Mom. Oh, man, what a nightmare. But it's exactly the point. When Mormons think that other people need to comply with certain rules and standards and honor code and traditions, this was food. And yet my sister took it upon herself to try to get me in trouble for being hungry, going to complain to Mom. I was hungry. I'm a growing boy. My mom knew this because I had to be put on rice formula as a baby, as a newborn baby. And she was well endowed, and still that wasn't enough. And so, yeah, that's how Mormons are. They miss the law, and they shoot beyond or above or miss it completely as they try to enforce Utah's traditions, Utah's values. That's another code word. Family values. Wholesome goodness. All encoded messages. And advertisers take advantage of people for that. Because people who are family oriented, you'll watch the commercials in those family oriented communities that talk about a product that has wholesome family goodness, good for the whole family. All those types of coding, that's designed to fool you into buying their product. Some products may actually be good, but then you have Johnson & Johnson's baby whatever it was, baby powder or something, that is now causing ovarian cancer in women. And so now there's a lawsuit that's required to be shown on TV. And that's why Johnson & Johnson is now doing their new campaign advertising thing to try to get people to come back after this scandal. And then, of course, there's all the pharmaceutical companies. You know, they rename it each and every time that they get caught killing people, causing so there you go, coded messaging. And the church is guilty of it. And Michael Cohen just exposed Trump's encoded messaging. So that's the church you live in, guys. That's the church. It's not about Jesus. The church is manipulating you so that they can get money. That's all it is. Money, money, money. 0.1% given in charity. Everything else is profit for them, so that they get Elder Irene's paycheck of $300,000, I think it was, a paycheck, or a month, I guess, I don't know. He gets it over $1 million each year. Oh, but his house is so expensive, especially after I put in the temple by me. Yeah. Alrighty, so we're at an hour here, and yeah, the rest of the evening is all about the hearing today. So I don't know if we're going to have the vote announced, but and then we're going to wait to find out Trump's response, if he even finds out about it, because he's having his, well, I guess he's now gone to bed, man. Alrighty. So the church is a gang. It's a family crime business. Family. See? That's the code word of the crime bosses. You don't want to mess with the family. That's what the church has done. They've turned couples into family. And so, alrighty. I told you I'm going to keep trying to get you Mormons out. But your hatred, your blindness is so deep that I'm concerned that destruction will be first before you ever decide to change your ways and leave. Alrighty. I have a picture for the thumbnail. So it's encoded, but I'm sure you'll get it.